Okay, John Marks, Montgomery County Tea Party. We are interviewing Adrian Kaiser for the Magnolia ISD position 2.
Yes, sir.
That's March 5th, 2019, with Ms. Del Fessenden, James Byers, David Smith, and Larry Rogers. And we kind of explained to you the layout that you'll have up to 5 minutes in an opening and then 2 minutes to answer every question. So with that, why don't we go ahead with your 5-minute opening. I'll have the timer right here. It is up to 5 minutes, so you can take the full 5 minutes or less if you like, and then we'll get into the Q&A round too. Go ahead.
My name is Adrian Kaiser. I am 23 years old. At 21, I married the most beautiful woman in the world. I'm running for this position because I feel the Magnolia ISD board is not properly using the tax dollars that they receive from the citizens effectively, and they are misusing the funds and they don't have a balanced budget. I believe that is very important for our community and our school board to run. I'm also an elected precinct chair for the Montgomery County Republican Party, and I'm also a graduate of the National Patriot Academy. My goal is to help the taxpayers lower their tax burden and also increase the effectiveness of the schools that we are going to be overseeing in the next 3 years. And that's my time right there.
Okay. All right, good deal. So why this particular position within Magnolia ISD? That's position 2.
I looked at the other positions. Position 2 was just the one that spoke out. I don't know the lady very much. I've met her a couple times. Very nice lady, but just position 2 was one of the ones that was open. The other races all had candidates in them when I filed. So position 2 was the only one that was uncontested, and I figured if I'm going to do this, let's go with one where I'm not going to have multiple opponents and not any possibility of runoff. That was position 2 was really just because it was open.
Okay, and these are not specified by districts. They're kind of at-large positions.
Yes, sir.
Within the ISD.
All positions in Magnolia, as far as I'm aware, I haven't seen anything that would, to the contrary, are all at-large positions. So everybody goes in. It's a district-wide election. And that's every position is like that.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Thank you. Dale.
Okay. You asked questions a couple of weeks ago to Superintendent Null about educational outcomes. So explain to me what your concept of educational outcomes is and give us as many examples as you can.
Educational outcomes would be not necessarily just kids graduating high school. That's a very important aspect, but educational as in when the kids do graduate, what do they go on to do? Are they going to college? Do they go to the military? Are they going to a trade school? It would just be the outcome that they, whatever path they see fit, that high school and the education system has taught them that would help them succeed in the fields or whatever school they decide to go to. And then increasing, if a student wants to play football, well then, that's their prerogative. They can do that. And just make sure that they're getting the best of the education that they're getting, going to these high schools, going to these schools and learning everything that they need to learn. So that way, when they do, that they can succeed and be productive citizens in the world when they do finally finish up whatever they were doing, whether it be college or trade schools or military, in that matter. And that's just any outcome, any educational system or program that they can take that will help them proceed and invest into their future, I think is a good quality for measuring the outcome of what they learned in school.
I want to ask you a quick question first. What role in the school district job title do you think is the most important? Janitor, football coach, teacher, superintendent, administrative help, kitchen help.
I'll be honest, administration, there's a oversee over. There's too much administration, in my opinion. That these
So what would be the most important?
most important one would probably end up being the teachers or
Okay.
stuff such as counselors, because they can give the students, teachers are there, they actually do help the kids and they are educating them. That's their.
Along that line, for Magnolia ISD, are you aware of the terms of termination of employment for the superintendent?
I am not. I have not looked over.
Currently, the contract he signed in 2016, if he's asked to leave or they don't want him anymore, he gets a 2-year buyout. Now, do you think that's something that the superintendent's job justifies? And if not, what would be acceptable terms of ending employment for the superintendent or anybody in the school district? Should he get 3 years? Should he get 5?
A superintendent, I know, oversees all the administration for a school, so they do have sort of an important job. I think they're wildly overpaid. That's all across the board. I think superintendents get too much money. That a 2-year, you said 2-year buyout. So if they terminate a contract early,
Then he gets 2 years salary
well then
right there.
I don't think that should be a contract if they're going to be superintendents, especially since teachers, can go year to year. I think superintendents shouldn't be, you get a contract for 10 years and you're the superintendent of that school for 10 years. You should get it year to year, just like all teachers are. So if you fail 1 year and the school board or the teachers think that you did a terrible job and they want you gone,
What would be an adequate salary for a superintendent of Magnolia ISD?
of Magnolia ISD, considering it's 2 high schools and I think it was 6 intermediates and then multiple elementaries. A district of that size, I think an adequate would probably be just over 100,000. Not as much as they get paid, but just over 100,000. I think with how much they actually deal with, I think that's an adequate salary.
One last question on that. If you didn't pay him, I'll wait.
Over text, yeah, we'll come back around.
Larry told me it would be 37.
Hey, Adrian, so the bond failed, so that's an issue that's open, right?
Are you meaning the bond or the TRE that was last?
Whatever, the vote,
The TRE was last.
so it failed, so those issues remain unresolved. So the new school board will have to deal with that. So what are your thoughts on it? How do you,
From what I gathered from what the TRE was, it was a fund swap. They take money from one account, put it into another, but they still need voter approval to do that from the account they were trying to change it from. I think that's just, they didn't balance their budget properly. They should have seen, some circumstances are, okay, it can be, you don't see them coming, something happens, school catches on fire, you don't really predict that's going to happen, but it could happen. But something, simple as maintenance on the schools and on buses, that should be something that you're plotting year to year. You should understand year to year. So the TRE was just them grossly neglecting maintenance fees that they were going to have to do. I think that would have been to go back and redo their budget instead of pushing this back on the taxpayers. And from what I got from what the TRE also do, the account that they were switching the funds from, they need voter approval, but the one, I think it was the debt ceiling that would pay off their debt, they don't need voter approval to raise the amount or percentage-wise. They don't need voter approval to actually raise that one up. So they claimed it wasn't a tax increase, but in the long run, they could have easily done it and no one would have been the wiser.
Okay, Larry?
So, how much does the superintendent currently make,
I think it's $325,000 a year.
I know that's the Conroe Independent School.
I think that's Magnolia as well. I could be grossly overestimating that, but I believe it's $325,000.
Are there any?
It's a salary of $220,000.
$220,000.
Okay, so I was 100,000 off.
Are there any current bond payments being made for previous bond?
I haven't been able to get the financial records yet. I've asked for them, but haven't been able to get them. I'm waiting for the email to get responded to.
How
So
long ago did you send that in?
I sent it, right after I turned my forms, so
Which was
February and mid-February, February 14th, I think.
roughly 3 weeks?
so 3 weeks. And you haven't received it yet?
It could have been. I haven't been following up. I've been busy focusing on the campaign, doing all that, so I haven't gotten a follow-up on it, but I could have sent it to the wrong email. Maybe it wasn't directed properly. Something could have failed in there. getting emails come. So it could have just been a fault, maybe going back and forth, maybe I didn't send it to the right email address. I'll go back and check it again, but just, I haven't had loads of time trying to get everything worked out with this campaign.
Do they have the budget online, or do they have anything online?
I haven't seen it, I've looked on the website, I haven't seen anything about it.
So have you seen the budget? Did you request the budget also?
I requested it, but as I said, I sent an email to the I think it was the financials department, and I haven't received an email back, but that could just be a fault that I have sent it the wrong email address.
All right.
On the questionnaire, under general, the first question, it says, is the board seek to be elected to effectively fulfilling its role, how or how not? And you indicated, as you did in your opening, that you don't think that they are. And you also followed up saying, I think they're not concerned with mounting debt and aren't balancing their budgets properly. Can you explain more about mounting debt and not balancing their budgets?
Currently, they have a debt. I think it was, last time I checked, which was around the TRA, so it's been a year since then, but it was $325,000 was how much they were in debt, or $325 million was how much they were in debt. That just seems ridiculous to me. I mean, it's a school district. I understand they get a lot of money, but that still seems an awful lot for just a school district to accumulate in debt. And as far as I'm concerned, no, I haven't seen any evidence that they're actually balancing or paying back that debt. So the debt is continuously rising, which is an issue. You don't want a school that racks up so much debt that eventually, whether or not they can, they declare bankruptcy or have to cut back on, teachers and other things just so they can get by. I think that would be a mistake. So they're not concerning themselves as much as they could be with the debt that they're receiving, with the debt that they currently have. In regards to the budget, I mean, the TRA is a perfect example. Was, from what I was gathering from it, it was nothing more than a maintenance swap. They were swapping from one account to another, so that would indicate that they're not balancing their budget if they had to do that. So that's why I think that the budget itself, they're not concerning themselves with it. Just, we'll push it down the road and wait till next year, wait till next, wait till the next board comes in, or just see what we can accomplish before then. Kind of swoop it under the rug, just kick it down to the bucket like they've been doing in the National Congress for a very long time.
Okay, the word that came out most commonly in your question answers, a lot in conversation, a lot of central to most of your answers there has to do with budgets. So can you explain to us, your experience with budgets, what training you've had? Have you had any involvement in budgets on a business sense? Obviously you do on a personal sense, but what kind of experience and understanding and training have you had in dealing with budgets?
I work for a small business. I don't directly deal with the finances, but I do. It's my father, so I ask him, every now and then to give me a little bit of example. I haven't done a whole lot of actual budgeting with the business, but from what I know, it's a complicated process. There's a lot of complicated long tax words that are involved in certain things. So I haven't had a tremendous amount of experience with budgeting on a business sense, but in as you said, personal financing, I worked with a budget for the first year and a half of my marriage until my wife was found employment. So we budgeted quite well. We survived and got by. Our first year, I don't make a ton of money, but I make enough. I provide.
What about educationally? Any courses on economics in high school or college or anything
I
like that?
took a semester of economics in high school, but that was required by the state. But I didn't go to college. I graduated in 2014. I was right at the peak of Obama's presidency, and I felt that I have to say, as a high school student, I saw what was going on and saw the ratio of students who were graduating college, going to college, and then not getting a degree in their field or having to fall back onto something, a fast food job or getting a job that was wildly under their education, not being able to pay back their student loans. And to me, that just wasn't something that I could afford, nor do I don't like debt, so that's something I didn't want to do either. So that, to me, that was just not an option as I saw. I just didn't. And then to top that, I'm not smart enough to get into an engineering program, so I couldn't have done that either way.
Okay, so, but that is kind of the central theme, so,
I would like to help, I want to help students get to where they want to go, and I don't want to just, I was taught all throughout high school, all throughout elementary, that you need to do this to get to college, you need to go to college. I don't think college is if kids wanted to work for us right after high school, that's what they can do. I mean, it may not be the best option for them, but that's something that they can do. So that's what I feel about that. You shouldn't be forced to go to college. It should be your choice after you graduate.
James?
Let's say a parent comes to you and they describe a very troublesome problem their child in Magnolia ISD school is having. But they come to you individually, because they know that you're on the board. What do you feel is your responsibility on how to handle that problem? Well, let's just say it's a problem with the teacher. It sounds like there may be an issue of behavioral. You don't know if it's the student misbehaving or the teacher totally overreacting. How would you handle that situation?
Well, first I would have, as a board member, I don't have a whole lot of authority to dictate what the teachers, I can't just unilaterally fire teachers. But first I would make sure that the parent has exhausted every other avenue they've gone to. Have they gone to the administration of the school? Have they spoken directly with the teacher? Have they done anything like that? I would make sure that every line that
That's good. Let's say they did all that.
And if they have done all that, well, then I would personally make it my mission to go to the school and talk to the principal, talk to the administrator, say, look, I've got this parent complaining to me. This seems to be something that you guys need to handle. And if they are just not handling it, or if they say they're going to get it resolved, and then I get the same parent coming to me a few weeks later saying the same thing, well, then I would figure out what ways we as a board can look into how we can review this teacher and make sure that this student, whatever this student is, whether it be behavioral, whatever, make sure that this doesn't happen. I would hate for a student something to happen that maybe a teacher is abusing, but taking advantage of a student, as in, not paying attention to their grades or not giving them what they deserve in regards to how the student feels bullied by the teacher. I would hate for that to be a reality. So I would make sure to figure out every avenue that we can do as a board to make sure that this does not happen, to make sure that that student is taken care of and they're getting the best of the education that they're receiving from one of our schools.
Thank you.
Let's talk about school security. So we all hear constantly now about school shootings. And, there's a model that we have a gun-free zone, and then there's a model that we arm teachers and administrators to provide response to that. So where do you lie in that model?
Magnolia prides itself, I've seen it all over, they pride themselves, the school board has paddles in the back, that every school within Magnolia ISD has an armed security guard into it in the premises. I think that's a wonderful step. When it comes to the thing of gun-free zones, I think all signs involving gun-free zones should be stripped away from schools. And then, I personally don't see a problem with Army teachers. I know that's a controversial issue. I don't see a problem with it. Several school shootings that we've seen, a lot of the teachers especially are doing whatever they can to protect their students. They're putting their lives on the line to defend their students. And I think that's, giving them, without any other protection besides just locking the door, that they're just sheep. They're just lambs to slaughter. I think if you allow teachers to arm themselves and give them the best possible advantage to defend their students, because a lot of them will give their lives, but to give them another avenue to defend their students, I think you would see a lot less school shootings being as fatal, or even a lot less of them happening than they currently are. So I personally think arming teachers would greatly go to letting at least parents or at least teachers feel safer in their classrooms.
In the spending, we asked how much money does MISD have in their bank account for contingencies, and how much is statutory required to keep on hand, and you didn't have that information at that time. Do you have you asked for that information, or is it on the website? Or?
I haven't been able to look at it on the website if it's there. I've looked on the website, but I'm not the best when it comes to technology. I may be young, but I don't have that good of a grip on technology. But so I haven't seen it on their website, but as I said previously, I've sent an email. I'll have to go back and relook at that to make sure that it actually gets into the proper person. But that's why I didn't have the information available to me at the time.
It's very important to know that.
It would be extremely important. That's something that if I'm going to be in charge of, I should really get on top of. But
Do you know what the regulation says that they're supposed to have?
I do not. I would have to go back and look at that. I probably have the information in my big binder that I received from the superintendent's secretary, but I'll have to go back and look at that.
I think it's important to know that.
You got more questions?
Ethics, do you believe that private conduct of a public official is relevant to the official's substantially for sustainability for office? You said it depends. What they do in their private lives shouldn't matter unless they do something illegal. Can you expound upon that a little bit?
The private conduct of what an individual does, if they do something illegal, such as embezzle funds, or they get involved in something heinous, such as murder, I think that's something that we should look upon. But as somebody who's read John Locke and believes in individual freedoms and individual liberties, what a person does in the privacy of their own home should be their own business, as long as it's not illegal. And that's why I make the point of legality. If they're not doing anything that's harming me or harming somebody else in any way, I don't feel that's something that should be, and as long as it's not affecting their job, I don't think that should be something that we should pay much mind to.
We touched on a little bit earlier that the administrative support in the schools, and I don't recall if you said if you know what the ratio is, teachers to support. Do you know that number?
I just attended it. I think it was somewhere, I could have been wrong about it. Are you meaning teachers as in the ratio of administration to teachers, or a ratio?
Yeah, is it the same amount, or is there one that's more, are there more support staff than teachers?
I don't have the exact number, but I attended a board meeting last night and they were talking about the pre-K program. And from that ratio, it's 11 to 1 in favor of the teachers, or the way that they worded it, the way it sounded, and how it looked on the screen was it was 11 to 1 for the teachers. That was the ratio of that right there.
Okay.
But, it could have just been them not paying attention and mismanaged how they ratio that, but that's what it seemed like.
That's actually a pretty good ratio, and I think the rest of the Magnolia ISD is a 1-to-1 ratio now, where it used to be 2-to-1.
Well, that was
teachers to support staff, not just the admin. I'm talking about all the support staff underneath that.
That was just their teacher to student ratio for the pre-K program alone. That wasn't for the entire district, but I would have to go back and look at the actual ratio of that.
So that's a different ratio, teachers to student. How many students per teacher? I'm talking about what's the ratio of teachers to support staff?
That I don't have the information. I haven't seen the information on that.
Okay.
I'll have to go back and look at it, and I'll do my best to look and see what I can find out about that.
All right. Yeah.
Okay, back on the budget, one of the questions that we asked in the questionnaire was, what are the top 3 areas where the budget for MISD needs to be adjusted? And you listed it in salaries, maintenance, and so forth. If you haven't looked at the financial data, what did you base that answer on?
From the people I've spoken to, they feel, they know, taxpayers, when it comes to their money, they know what they're talking about. They know a lot of stuff. So most of them have said, the superintendent's overpaid. I don't know where they're getting that information from, but they know the administration especially is overpaid. I'm basing it on what I saw in my high school days. I'm 23, so I graduated, 5 years ago. But the administration was wildly overpaid, I felt. And
You
then
know what their salaries are? Can you list any of the salaries
for Magnolia last year, or
for Magnolia?
for Magnolia, the superintendent is, I said it was 325,000, but I was wrong. I was 100,000 off. It's 235,000 for how much they are. I couldn't name off the top of my head all the other administrations they have.
Okay, and that's a little bit questioning why you would say that they're overpaid if you don't know their salaries.
Because I feel that administration shouldn't be paid 6 figures, but I do know that a lot of administration gets paid equal to that or just above that. That just from basing off the information I've seen from other school districts throughout the state.
Okay. Okay, James.
You're not on the board, so you might not know the answer to this, but we know, for instance, for the Conroe ISD, when the board is elected, the superintendent, or actually the administration, school administration, hands them what they call is a ethics agreement. And the ethics agreement largely is them, the board members agreeing to basically be hands-off on any school issues. They not go investigate anything themselves. Any problems or questions they have, they go through the administration, no direct contact with any of the schools. If you're given such a commitment to be made as a school board member of Magnolia ISD, how will you respond? What would you agree to?
Now, the agreement, I've heard people talk about it from at the Tea Party when they had the superintendent. What the ethics agreement is, if there's a problem at any school, the school board cannot look into, is what you're asking?
That was the ethics commitment that they signed.
And
It's called ethics.
they have to sign that. I wouldn't sign it.
They don't have to, I mean, but they're told to.
I wouldn't sign it. I feel if there's a real problem, and we have to go through administration, I feel administration's gonna do what they can to cover their tracks if they're doing something that may be unsavory or illegal, and they don't wanna get caught. I feel they can easily cover their tracks. They have the ability to do so. So I think if I wanna investigate something, I think I should be able to do that without having to go through every nook and cranny just to get the information I need. So I would not be inclined to sign it.
Well, as a school board, do you think their relationship with the administration, or in particularly the superintendent, should be adversarial or collegial or what?
The superintendent, his mind, from what I've seen, his entire job is to focus on the schools. It's to focus on the teachers and the administration, and the school board is to focus on helping students get a best education as well as the taxpayers. On certain aspects, they should be, fairly colloquial, and then we should be challenging this administration at every point when it comes to budgeting and financing, because their superintendents are more than likely wanting more money. That's typically what they complain about, is they need more money and they want more money. And we shouldn't just be handing them money willy-nilly. So on that aspect, we should be challenging them and fighting them to make sure that what they're actually asking for is reasonable.
Thank you.
We've been talking about the leadership salaries. This is called leadership. How do you define that? The superintendent plus maybe some of the deputy superintendents. Would you be amenable to pay for performance? So as an example, we have a graduation rate. We have as was pointed out, there's a measurement for graduation rate. There's a measurement for how kids perform as they go to college, and math at the junior high level, or English. Is it reasonable to, if we have a problem with the current pay of the administrator, to make it variable, so that if he hits goals on those 4 objectives, math, English, graduation rate, that he can improve his compensation based on hitting those goals each year? Is that a reasonable approach?
You're talking in the sense that a principal or
But let's just keep it at the superintendent.
the
That's not,
superintendent, okay,
let's keep
so
it simple.
depending on the graduation rate of the high schools, he can, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, put a dollar value to each event and say we want to improve these 3 important categories. Can we say, okay, like I saw, we had another school system that graduation rate is 95%, we want to get to 98. And you say, he has a long-term contract, you know, we say, okay, you want the other 25,000 or 50,000, you made 97.
Well, if he signed a contract, he's getting paid, I don't think we should increase his salary based on.
No, I'm just saying that there's variable comp and there's fixed comp. So we're talking about lowering the fixed comp, and obviously he's going to complain, so he said, okay, we use some of that we withdrew to be a variable comp that's paid on test scores. So you say, okay, if this is keep your graduation rate, your graduation is 95, you need to get it to 98, you know what I mean? Well, over a 3-year period, you do that over a 3-year period, then we throw more money in the pot, just like a corporation does. You pay for performance. And why not?
It's like a salesperson going from salary to commission.
If he,
Right, we pay commission.
Increased cost.
so,
Good analogy.
but would he be, on the same note though, if he doesn't achieve those goals?
He wouldn't get the money.
Can we fire him?
Well, that's another topic. That's, you know, you have to make that judgment. But obviously, in the corporation setting, is when you miss your goals all the time, what do? They fire you.
So,
So, I mean, yes.
I would be amendable to that, to looking into it, but I wouldn't, I'd have to see some of the results from other school districts, see how it works.
I'm not sure we're going to find many, but
You know, if there's a system in the business aspect, I think that's a wonderful thing. I think it works out. I'd love to get paid that way. But I haven't seen any information involving schools, how that would work, but I'm amenable to it if we can find a successful program, a successful district that does that, that'd be great.
second question is, you know, Magnolia is a diverse county in terms of urban and agriculture. Do you feel that, you know, some kids want to go to college, some kids want to go to trade school, or some kids want to the military? Do you think that right now, obviously in Texas and most national schools, everybody's focused to, you know, push people through college, and you know, now the trade school has been forgotten. Do you think we need to re-emphasize trade school education and provide an opportunity for people to follow those and get qualifications while they're in high school?
When I was in high school, I remember we had several programs, and this is where actually I learned a lot of my welding stuff, is that they had this class you could take in high school. I think that was a good program. And they also had things like auto mechanics and small engine repair and ag class courses all throughout high school. I think those courses are a thing. I want to extend courses like that. You know, maybe these kids don't want to go to college, maybe they want to learn something that maybe they can use right out of high school. It may not get a certificate, or they might have the ability to do that, but small engine repair, repairing a lawnmower, go to any shop somewhere, you can repair a lawnmower for however much you think it's worth. So I think we should look into extending those kind of programs and not just focusing on academics in school. We should give these kids actual opportunities that they can learn, use these skills in life to grow up. And I think that would be something important we should look into.
Okay.
How many physical schools are in the district? And do you know the breakdown, junior high, elementary?
I know there's 2 high schools, Magnolia and Magnolia West. I think there's 6 intermediate junior highs. The district's going through sort of a phase right now where they still have intermediate schools, which are 5th, 6th, and 7th grade. And then, or it's 6th, 7th, 8th grade in one school, and then kindergarten through 5th in the elementary schools. And they sort of have this weird phase where they're going and they're trying to change it over to where there's a junior high, which is 7th and 8th grade, and then the intermediate schools will be 5th and 6th grade. And so I don't know exactly how many junior highs and how many intermediate schools there are, but I think they're increasing that number. I know that was one thing that I spoke to one of the board members about. I'm not going to name her here. I spoke to her about it, and she was talking that that's something the school board's looking into doing, and they've already done that on one school. But I don't know the actual number. I think there's between 13 and 15 elementary schools, but I don't know the intermediate junior high is the one that I just...
Are there any new schools in the process of being built or getting ready to be built?
I haven't seen any information of new schools being built so far. Besides one, but I can't remember what the name of it is, but it's a junior high. It's going to be a 7th and 8th grade campus. I don't know the actual name of it, but I think as of last year, I think they were still under construction. I don't know if it's been built yet.
All right.
What do you know about MISD, Magnolia ISD being an IB school? And what will you do to remove it? Do you know what it is?
I know a little bit about it. When I was at Klein Oak High School, they had the same program, IB, and one of my ROTC buddies, he used to make a joke. We'd ask him, what does IB stand for? He said, it means I'm better. So it was kind of a play on the joke there. But I know that from what these kids go, it's an extremely tough program to get into as well as state as to maintain. It stands for I can't pronounce it.
International Baccalaureate.
Yeah, something like that. It's some word I can't pronounce. I don't have the education to do that. But I don't think schools should be having kids do international anything. That shouldn't be something that we're teaching them UN's funded programs or stuff like that. But when I was in school, all I knew it was some super advanced program. That basically you have the AP courses and then you have something that's even higher than that was IB. And the kids that I knew who were in it, they did not have social lives. They were kind of the shut-ins who always had to study. I don't know much about the program. I'd like to know a lot more about it, but from what I've seen so far, it's not something that I would want to continue to support.
So my understanding is it's kind of a similar Common Core derivative,
Sort of.
with a different name.
That's from what I've seen, from what some of the students have tried to explain some stuff to me. Remember, I'm not a super genius intelligence, so I don't understand a whole lot of what they're talking about. But that's what I've seen, what they've kind of explained to me what it is. And if it has to do with Common Core, I don't agree with Common Core, so we should get rid of it. But I'd like to see, what exactly the program is, get a detailed analysis of what the program is, and then see if it's beneficial to us continuing with it.
Okay. Larry, did you ever start time? Did you?
Yeah, we started at 5:52.
Okay. Dell.
37 minutes.
We've got probably maybe 5 minutes, maybe enough to go around to. Go ahead, Dell.
Okay. One of the statements you made in the questionnaire was throwing money at the problem is not going to help. California spends the most money on schools, and they rank at the bottom of the educational outcomes. Do you have an article that you can send me a link where you got your information on that?
Yes, I saw the, I can't remember her name. She was a teacher at one of the California schools, and she was part of the union, and she was in a big legal battle. This is mostly about the unions. But she mentioned that California spends entirely, the unions are huge out there, they spend a whole lot on teachers' pay and just making sure the schools are great. And for some reason, they're ranking 46th out of 50 in the entire United States, and the entire overall statewide schools. I can get the article for you and I'll send it to you. Okay, get it to you, but I do have that information. I'll send that when I get the chance.
Okay. And back on the budget, you said adjusting the budget accordingly will guarantee the best education that we can. I'm having a little bit of difficulty making that connection because there's quite often a statement that says it's not about the money, it's about the teachers, how they teach and so forth. So can you fill in that gap for me that led you to say adjusting the budget will guarantee the best education we can?
What I'm saying that is adjusting the budget, and teachers are part of that. We need to adjust it so that way teachers are still getting paid. And I think we can change it to based off teacher performance. The better a teacher does, maybe pay them more. I'm okay with teachers being paid that way because if a teacher's doing wonderful, we want to keep the good teachers. We want to keep them as much as possible. So if they're getting paid, if they're not getting paid enough, and then for some reason this one teacher has had 6 graduating classes in a row, all had over a 90% scores, and all of them are going on to college or going on to trade schools, and they're just graduating her class. She's doing wonderful work. Test scores are great. Why not pay that teacher more? Adjusting the budget accordingly in that measure of trying to figure out, how much can we spend on teachers that are doing good? How can we get rid of bad teachers? And maybe change up.
So then
It's not
test scores would be the basis for teacher pay incentive?
Not just test scores, and then that means if you just based on test scores, teachers can go through no matter what a kid does and get them an A, therefore test scores go up, they go. It would be a matter of, how the kids are doing in school. You have standardized testing. We love standard history for some reason. I don't understand that point, but we can base it off of that as well, scores on that. Maybe SAT scores. There's a lot of different avenues we can take that would show if these teachers are doing well. Maybe a teacher evaluation to see, ask these students, the students who are actually taking the classes, they're going to know how these teachers are teaching. Have them, ask them questions, see one day, hey, how's she teaching the class? What is she doing? Are you learning what you need to? Give them basic rubric of something that they would learn in that school, see if they can answer the questions accordingly, stuff like that. It's not perfect, but we can work with teachers, work with administration, figure out what's the best way to go about that.
James?
Only the school board is elected. The superintendent is selected by the school board. The administration hires everybody else. So really, if anything goes wrong with the district or is not being done well, the ones the electorates have to blame is the school board, who elected you. So my question is, what policies should the school board set for the district? Anything? Just some policies, or like salaries, or school performance, or school security? Who would set the policies, and what policies should they set? Well, the school board. What policies, if any, should the school board set for the entire district?
Administration pay would be one that we can focus on, so that way if they feel, the administrators, taxpayers are feeling the taxpayers are paying
Salaries,
for
okay.
salaries, we can focus on that. Tax revenue, how much they're paying in taxes, when we should focus on, because we're the elected ones, we're the ones that have to answer to the school board. If a superintendent can raise, taxes wherever he wants, which he can't, as far as I'm concerned, then there's no way they can get rid of that. There's no way they can really just get rid of the superintendent. So they would have to come through us. I think that's something we should keep our mind on, keep focus on. And then just basic policies involving teachers, what they can and some things they can and cannot do in the classroom, how they should behave outside the classrooms.
What about the curriculum? Should the administration set that, or the school board?
From what I've seen on the school board, I don't know if a local school board actually sets the curriculum. I think that's
Should it?
the set. There's yes and no. Certain things that we should, maybe Magnolia can give better curriculum involving, let's say, some of the extracurriculars they do. But I think some of the main stuff that they should focus on should be set by the state. Math, English, science. Those are subjects that everybody needs to learn. So we should let the state, since everybody in the state's got to learn those, we should let them learn that based on the state. But other than that, art, music, anything like that, the school board, we should set curriculum like that. I think that would be something we can set them on. We should be able to set on with some of the electives, stuff like that.
David?
We got time for one last.
Quickly, the lieutenant governor and governor have proposed a $5,000 pay increase funded by the state for all teachers, not administrators. What are your thoughts on that?
Talking the bill that they're proposing between the speaker, the governor, and the lieutenant governor, the education bill they're proposing. I've looked into a lot of that. I'm kind of a nerd when it comes to that. I enjoy listening to debates and stuff in that area. A $5,000 pay increase to every teacher I think they need to adjust the budget accordingly with that, but I would be okay with that as long as they can adjust the budget. As long as they're not going to this isn't just going to pay for that and they're going to go into debt doing this. I think as long as they're going to balance their budget, that should be fine.
Should it be performance-based or just a general 5,000 across the board?
Oh, 5,000 is what they say that the school boards are allotted to pay the teachers, but then school boards can decide what they do with their, if they want to base it off of performance, that's okay. I'd love to see that happen. If they want to base it off of just seniority, let the unions have control of it, well then, I don't agree with that, but that's school board's prerogative. But I think that should be something, instead of just every teacher gets $5,000 increase, they should allocate that. That's how much max we can increase teachers' pay by. And then let us adjust and base that off of what we feel is the best happening.
Okay, we're at the point now where you can do a close, if you like, up to 5 minutes.
Answered a lot of questions. I've heard a lot of input, and some I was able to answer more effectively than others. I really would like to serve on your school board to help the taxpayers and help your students and your children have the best educational outcome they're getting from this district. So when you go in on May 4th, vote for the person who's going to help lower your taxes as well as give the best educational future for your children.
All right, thanks very much for coming. Appreciate it.